Today is the feast of Saint Maria Goretti, and her life remains a model of purity and mercy for all Christians. She was born in 1890. At the age of 11, a 20-year-old man tried to rape her. She resisted. He stabbed her more than a dozen times. She died soon after. In 1950, she was canonized by Pope Pius XII. And joining us now is Dr. Matthew Bunsen, executive editor and Washington bureau chief of EWTN News. He is also the co-author of our Sunday Visitors Encyclopedia of Saints. Dr. Bunsen, thank you so much for your time today. Great to be with you. What more can you tell us about Saint Maria Goretti and also her example of forgiveness and mercy towards her attacker?
Well, to appreciate the life of Maria Goretti is to appreciate the virtue of chastity, of purity, but it's also of fortitude. Her family had owned a farm. It suffered very severe economic misfortune, and they were forced to sell the farm, become really laborers themselves, and then move in with another family, the Serenellis. That becomes important, as you'll see in a second. But while her mother was working in the fields and her father died from complications of malaria when she was only 9, she was then attacked by one of the members of the Serenelli family by the name of Alessandro. And as you noted, he attempted to rape her, but she fought him. She cried out to him not to do this. And she did it because, as she said, she was worried about his soul, that he was on a path to hell. And enraged, he stabbed her to death, and she lingered for another whole day after the attack. She underwent surgery without anesthesia, but before she died, she forgave her attacker. And that was a pretty extraordinary moment for all of the doctors who were there, and ultimately for her attacker himself.
Absolutely. And can we talk a little bit more about what we can learn from her?
Yeah, well, at her canonization in 1950, Pope Pius XII referred to her as the Agnes of the 20th century, referring to a virgin martyr, and she is considered a virgin martyr. Alessandro, her assailant, was sentenced to prison, and in prison he had a vision of her and underwent a very powerful conversion. When he was released, he became a member of the Franciscans, a lay brother, and a gardener. And every report indicates that he actually attended her canonization in 1950 and asked her mother for forgiveness. And her mother said to Alessandro, "My daughter forgave you, why can't I?" She is, I think, a role model for chastity and purity at a time when both are mocked in contemporary culture, in exactly the same way that St. Agnes was a beautiful witness to purity, to chastity. So too is Maria Goretti. And I think at her canonization with 500,000 people, most of them young, Pius XII understood the message that she sent, not just in 1950, but here in the 21st century as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned her canonization. Her mother was there. Can you talk about the significance of that, and also in what ways is she still relevant today?
Yeah, well, at her canonization, there were a number of firsts. I mentioned there were about 500,000 people, there were so many, in fact, that they had to move the canonization ceremony from within St. Peter's Basilica all the way into St. Peter's Square. There were simply that many people. One of the largest canonizations in the history of the Church. Her mother, reportedly, was one of the first mothers ever to attend a canonization of one of her own children. So we have those records. We also have, as I said, the reports that Alessandro was in attendance. So this was a pretty remarkable moment in the life of the Church. But then we go back to her relevance. As I was saying earlier, she is a role model for young people today. We think of Carlo Acutis, who was beatified in 2020, who's a great role model for the age of the internet. Maria Goretti, I think, is a beautiful role model for young people today who are asked to defend their purity, defend their chastity, and yet, at the same time, to do that with vigor, but then to forgive, to have mercy to those who attack us, those who belittle us. And Maria stands for us, I think, as that role model, again, for purity and also in mercy.
And thank you so much, Dr. Bunsen, for coming on today and sharing her story with us. We really appreciate it. We appreciate your time.
Good to be with you.